like somewhere in a candle. Lit chamber beneath the noise of civilization, men in tailored suits and ancient aprons leaned over a table, and your existence was not a surprise, it was a discussion. They say the 33rd degree isn't just a rank, it's a revelation. And tonight, we're not talking about conspiracy theories whispered in basements. We're talking about symbols, charts, alignments, the moment ink touched paper. And the page didn't just hold your birth chart, it reacted to it. Because what happens when the most initiated minds of the 33rd degree Masons examine the exact second you entered this world? What happens when ancient geometry meets your first breath? What happens when the planets align? Not randomly, but precisely like a signature. You think your birth chart is just astrology. Cute. They saw patterns layered inside patterns, hidden degrees inside obvious ones. A Scorpio mark that didn't sit quietly on the page. It burned through it. And here's the part that should make you uncomfortable. They weren't shocked. They were prepared. Prepared for someone with your placements. Prepared for someone carrying that intensity. Prepared for someone whose chart doesn't whisper destiny. It screams transformation. You've been told you're emotional. Too deep. Too intense. But intensity isn't chaos. It's power without permission. Tonight, we're peeling back the velvet curtain. We're stepping into the chamber. We're asking why ancient symbols reacted the way they did when your cosmic blueprint was revealed. Because maybe, just maybe, you weren't born under the stars. The stars were positioned under you. No, smiled. Because if they really analyzed your chart, they already know what you're capable of. And the real question is, do you? Some people think the 33rd degree is just a number. Just another step in a ladder of titles, rituals, and secret handshakes. But numbers at that level aren't arithmetic, they're architecture. They represent completion, mastery, the moment a circle closes and a new one begins. In esoteric traditions, 33 symbolizes the highest observable elevation before transcendence. It is the final visible stair before the unseen doorway. And when you place that energy next to a birth chart, your birth chart, it stops being symbolic and starts becoming surgical. Imagine minds trained for decades in symbolism, sacred geometry, duality, polarity, and cosmic timing examining the exact coordinates of your first breath, not casually, not skeptically, but methodically. Every planet frozen in its degree at the precise second you entered this world. Every house positioned like a room in a mansion you didn't know you owned. Every aspect forming angles like coded instructions written in light. To the untrained eye, it's astrology. To initiates of higher symbolism, it's architecture of destiny. The 33rd degree represents illumination after long initiation. It is the point where patterns are no longer random. They are intentional. Where coincidence is dismissed and design is recognized. So when such a perspective meets a birth chart, the analysis goes beyond personality traits and compatibility. It searches for signatures, repeating numbers, rare alignments, uncommon planetary conversations. It looks for marks of intensity, transformation, influence, and legacy. It examines whether the chart carries the vibration of leadership, rebellion, reform, or revelation. Because symbols don't just describe a person. They reveal potential pressure points, the places where power either awakens or implodes. A strong Scorpio placement, for example, is not seen merely as emotion. It is seen as alchemy, the ability to die and resurrect psychologically, the capacity to hold secrets without being crushed by them, the instinct to move in silence and strike with precision. And when such intensity appears layered with master numbers, fixed signs, or tightly woven aspects, the page doesn't feel ordinary. It feels charged. At that level of interpretation, the chart is not about prediction. It's about recognition. Recognition of someone who carries internal friction, strong enough to reshape external reality. Recognition of someone who will not live quietly. Recognition of someone whose lessons will be intense, because their potential is intense. Power is rarely given gently. It is forged through pressure. The revelation isn't that you are destined for something dramatic. The revelation is that your blueprint contains deliberate tension, opposition aspects that create inner conflict, conjunctions that concentrate force, placements that demand evolution. The 33rd degree mindset sees tension as fuel. It sees struggle as refinement. It understands that those marked by depth often walk through fire before they understand why they were built to survive it. And once that pattern is seen, it cannot be unseen. The symbols stop being decorative. They become directional. The degrees stop being numbers. They become thresholds. The chart stops being paper. It becomes a mirror reflecting a version of you that is larger, heavier, more dangerous, in the sense that uncontrolled potential is dangerous. Controlled, it becomes influence. The revelation isn't about secret approval. It's about awareness. Awareness that your cosmic blueprint carries layers most people never bother to decode. Awareness that your intensity is not accidental. Awareness that some charts whisper, but others radiate heat. And when heat meets preparation, transformation becomes inevitable. Most people think a birth chart is a personality report, a cosmic mood ring, something soft, mystical, decorative. But a blueprint is not decoration. A blueprint is a design drawn before construction begins. It doesn't ask for your opinion. It outlines structure, pressure points, strengths, weaknesses, load-bearing walls, hidden chambers. And the second you were born, the sky drafted one for you. A blueprint doesn't mean your life is scripted. It means the raw materials were selected. The angles between planets are like beams crossing under tension. Some create stability. Others create friction. Friction is interesting. Friction produces heat. Heat produces transformation. That's why certain placements feel heavy. They aren't flaws, they're structural reinforcements disguised as challenges. Think about timing. The universe has been moving for billions of years. Stars exploding, galaxies spinning, planets orbiting in silent precision. Then suddenly, in one exact second, you arrive. And at that second, every celestial body freezes into a unique arrangement that will never repeat the same way again. That's not poetry. That's mathematics wrapped in mystery, a cosmic fingerprint stamped on your first breath. Your sun sign is just the front door. The moon? That's the hidden basement where emotions echo. Your rising sign? The mask you didn't know you were wearing. But deeper than that are the degrees, the aspects, the squares that create internal wars, the trines that grant effortless talent, the oppositions that split you in half until you learn to balance both sides. A blueprint isn't about comfort. It's about capacity. Some charts are smooth highways. Others are labyrinths. If yours feels intense, complicated, layered, good. Complexity means depth. Depth means potential leverage. People with simple structures break under unexpected weight. Those built with tension learn how to carry it. Every difficult placement is like a locked room. Most ignore the door. A few find the key. The rare ones break the door down and claim what's inside. A secret blueprint doesn't scream its instructions. It hides them in symbols. Why? Because power revealed too early is wasted. You weren't meant to understand yourself at 5 years old, or 15. The blueprint unfolds in phases. Transits activate dormant rooms. Certain years feel explosive because a planetary trigger hits a sensitive degree in your chart. Suddenly you're forced to evolve. It feels chaotic. It's actually construction. And here's the unsettling part. The blueprint includes your shadows. Jealousy, obsession, fear of abandonment, control issues, magnetic attraction. These aren't curses. They're raw energy, unrefined fuel. If ignored, they sabotage. If mastered, they become strategy. That's why some people self-destruct while others with similar placements rise. Same materials, different awareness. Your chart doesn't promise success. It promises intensity in specific areas. Relationships may be transformative battlefields. Career may demand reinvention. Identity may feel like a phoenix cycle. Burn, rebuild, burn again. But a phoenix blueprint is not designed for mediocrity. It's designed for metamorphosis. You don't get rebirth energy without first experiencing endings. Even your fears are mapped. The house placements show where you hesitate, where you overcompensate, where you crave validation. The nodes point toward karmic direction. What feels unfamiliar but necessary? Following that path feels risky because it stretches the structure beyond comfort. But blueprints are meant to be built fully, not halfway. And the symbols don't lie. They describe potential force. They outline where influence can grow if discipline is applied. They highlight where emotional storms can either drown you or teach you how to command the ocean inside you. Nothing in the chart is random decoration. Every angle is intentional tension. Every placement is a coded instruction waiting for interpretation. Symbols are never just symbols. They're compression. Entire philosophies reduced into shapes, power condensed into lines and curves. A circle isn't just a circle. It's eternity without beginning or end. A triangle isn't just geometry. It's balance, hierarchy, fire rising upward. When you start seeing symbols as containers of meaning instead of decorations, you realize something unsettling. Some charts don't just show placements, they form patterns. Hidden symbols within symbols. That's where it gets interesting. At first glance, a birth chart looks like a wheel divided into 12 sections. Planets scattered across degrees. Lines connecting them like some cosmic spiderweb. But step back. Really step back, and you start noticing formations. A grand trine forming a perfect triangle. A T-square creating pressure like a slingshot pulled tight. A stellium clustering energy in one house like concentrated fuel waiting for ignition. These aren't accidents. They are energetic signatures. A triangle inside a circle. A cross hidden in angular aspects. Oppositions drawing a straight line across the chart, like a blade splitting two worlds. It's geometry with psychological consequences. Because geometry creates tension, and tension creates narrative. If you carry a grand cross, you feel pulled in 4 directions at once. Identity, relationships, ambition, security, all demanding equal attention. That's not personality. That's symbolic architecture shaping experience. And then there are repeating degrees. Mirror numbers, critical degrees known in astrological traditions for amplifying intensity. When a planet sits at a powerful degree and forms aspects to other strong placements, the symbolism layers. It's like seeing a symbol carved into stone, and then noticing the stone itself is shaped like another symbol. Depth inside depth. Scorpio energy, for example, already carries symbolism of death and rebirth, transformation. Secrets, the underworld. But place that Scorpio intensity in the 8th house. The house naturally associated with power, shared resources, and psychological depth. And the symbol doubles. It's not just transformation. It's compounded transformation. Alchemy squared. Fire beneath water, a hidden furnace. Even the angles between planets, 90 degrees, 120 degrees, 180 degrees. Form invisible shapes that influence behavior. A square creates friction. 2 squares opposing each other create dynamic tension that demands action. A trine forms flow, sometimes so smooth it breeds complacency. When multiple aspects interlock, they form symbolic grids, and grids hold energy. The untrained eye sees personality traits passionate, stubborn, intuitive, ambitious. The trained eye sees structure, a fixed sign emphasis forming an immovable base. Heavy water placements creating emotional depth that can either heal or drown. Cardinal energy clustered in angular houses, signaling someone who initiates rather than waits. The symbol isn't what you are. It's how your energy is arranged. And here's the deeper layer. Symbols resonate subconsciously. Even if you don't study astrology, you feel your configuration. Someone with strong Plutonian aspect senses intensity early in life. Power struggles appear. Control dynamics surface. Trust becomes a battlefield. That's the symbol playing out in lived experience. It doesn't need belief to operate. Hidden symbols within symbols also explain why some lives feel mythic. Not easier, mythic. Hero journeys marked by repeated transformation. Relationships that act as catalysts instead of comfort zones. Career paths that involve tearing down and rebuilding structures. When the chart forms powerful geometric alignments, life mirrors that complexity. The wheel itself is a symbol of cycles. Nothing in it is static. Transits activate dormant patterns, lighting up angles that have been quiet for years. Suddenly, a sleeping square becomes a crisis. A soft trine becomes an opportunity. The geometry shifts through time, like a machine with gears turning beneath consciousness. The page may look still, but the symbols are alive. They interact. They echo. They reinforce one another. And when enough intensity layers in precise formations, the chart stops looking random. It starts looking intentional, like a sigil designed not for decoration, but for activation. Scorpio energy is misunderstood because it doesn't perform for approval. It doesn't sparkle on the surface or beg to be liked. It observes. It waits. It studies the emotional temperature of a room before stepping fully inside. And when it does step in, it doesn't arrive lightly. It arrives with gravity, with depth, with an intensity that makes shallow interactions feel unbearable. Fire and water shouldn't coexist, but Scorpio carries both. Water on the surface, emotion, intuition, sensitivity so sharp it feels psychic. Fire underneath, controlled rage, ambition, desire that refuses to die quietly. That's why Scorpio placements often feel extreme. You're either all in or completely withdrawn. There is no neutral setting, no lukewarm existence. It's immersion or silence. Transformation is not a cute metaphor here. It's survival. Scorpio energy doesn't just change, it sheds skin violently when necessary. It rules the 8th house themes. Death, rebirth, shared power, secrets, psychological excavation. When life hits, it hits deep, betrayals cut to the bone, love consumes, loss reshapes identity. But here's the secret. Every destruction contains instruction. Every ending hides leverage. People fear Scorpio intensity because it exposes what others try to hide. Lies feel obvious. Manipulation feels detectable. Emotional undercurrents are visible beneath polite smiles. That perception isn't accidental, it's instinct. Scorpio reads between words. It listens to tone shifts. It notices inconsistencies. It doesn't just hear what's said. It feels what's suppressed. Power and transformation go hand in hand. You cannot transform without confronting power dynamics. Who controls, who submits, who pretends. Scorpio energy is obsessed with authenticity because it has no tolerance for masks. If something is rotten, it wants to tear it open. If something is false, it wants it dismantled. That can make relationships intense. Not dramatic for entertainment, intense for truth. And then there's resilience. Scorpio doesn't crumble permanently. It collapses strategically. It retreats into darkness, processes pain privately, rebuilds in silence. That's why people often underestimate it. They mistake quiet for weakness, but silence here is incubation. Like magma beneath the Earth's crust, invisible until eruption. Sexual energy, creative energy, destructive energy, they're all the same current redirected. Scorpio placements carry magnetism because they operate from depth. Surface charm fades, depth lingers. People feel drawn without understanding why. It's not about attention, it's about presence. A room shifts, when someone comfortable with their shadows walks in. But shadow work is not optional with this energy. Jealousy, obsession, control. These traits surface if power is mismanaged. Scorpio must learn to transmute instead of dominate, to influence without suffocating, to trust without constant surveillance. That's the evolution. Power without wisdom becomes toxicity. Power with awareness becomes transformation for others as well. There's also a fascination with the forbidden. Taboo subjects, hidden knowledge, mysteries others avoid. Scorpio energy dives into what society labels uncomfortable. Psychology, trauma, death, secrets. Because understanding darkness removes its control. What you can analyze, you can master. And when fully evolved, this placement becomes healing. Not gentle, soft healing, catalytic healing. The kind that forces growth. The kind that dismantles illusions and rebuilds foundations stronger than before. People with strong Scorpio influence often become mirrors. Others confront themselves in their presence. That can create friction. It can also create awakening. Intensity is not chaos. It's concentrated life force. Transformation is not destruction for entertainment. It's refinement through fire. Scorpio doesn't seek to burn everything down. It seeks to remove what is false so what is real can survive. And once that survival instinct matures into self-awareness, the same energy that once felt overwhelming becomes strategic, magnetic, and nearly impossible to break. Before you chose a name, before you formed a memory, before you understood language, the sky had already arranged itself into a configuration that described your entry point into this world. That's the unsettling part. Recognition precedes awareness. The coordinates of your birth weren't random chaos. They were a snapshot of cosmic timing, so precise it could never be duplicated again in exactly the same way. Destiny isn't a script carved in stone. It's more like a pressure system. Certain placements create gravitational pull towards specific themes. Power, transformation, leadership, isolation, influence, reinvention. You might resist them. You might try to live smaller, quieter, safer. But the tension remains, like a compass needle constantly correcting itself toward magnetic north. When a chart carries strong angular placements, planets sitting near the ascendant, midheaven, descendant, or IC, life tends to feel visible, exposed, significant. The world reacts strongly to you, whether you ask for that reaction or not. It's as if the blueprint was designed for impact. Some charts are background energy. Others are spotlight energy. Spotlight doesn't always mean fame, it means consequence. Your actions ripple. Fixed sign dominance adds another layer. Stubbornness to some, endurance to others. When Scorpio, Leo, Taurus, or Aquarius energy concentrates in a chart, it signals someone who doesn't bend easily. That can create friction early in life. Clashes with authority, intense relationships, resistance to being controlled. But that same rigidity becomes strength under pressure. Steel doesn't apologize for being hard. Then there are the outer planet signatures, Pluto, Uranus, Neptune, forming tight aspects to personal planets. That's generational power personalized. It means collective themes run directly through your identity. You don't just experience change, you embody it. You don't just witness disruption, you trigger it. People project onto you because you activate unconscious material in them. Recognition before awareness often shows up as early intensity. Childhood that feels heavier than it should. Responsibilities too mature for your age. Emotional depth that isolates you from peers. It can feel unfair, but it's consistent with charts marked by transformation energy. The lesson isn't comfort. The lesson is capacity. You may notice patterns repeating, cycles of destruction and rebuilding. Relationships that serve as catalysts rather than comfort zones. Career paths that force reinvention instead of stability. That repetition isn't punishment. It's refinement. Each cycle strengthens psychological muscle. Each ending clarifies identity. The blueprint keeps steering you toward alignment with your strongest placements. There's also the sense of being watched, not literally, but energetically, as if life tests you more intensely than others. High-pressure situations, moments demanding courage, situations requiring emotional control. That pressure corresponds to concentrated aspects in a chart. The universe doesn't waste intensity on fragile foundations. It reinforces what can carry weight. And here's the paradox. Destiny recognition doesn't guarantee greatness. It guarantees potential. Potential requires discipline. Raw Scorpio power without self-awareness becomes self-sabotage. Fixed energy without flexibility becomes stagnation. Pluto aspects without introspection become destruction. The blueprint offers force. You decide the direction. When you finally begin studying your own chart deeply, something clicks. Traits you once judged start making sense. Patterns you thought were flaws reveal strategic advantages. Emotional extremes become insight. Obsession becomes focus. Silence becomes observation. The very qualities that made you feel different start looking deliberate. It's not that someone somewhere approved you. It's that your configuration suggests weight, and weight implies responsibility. You were structured for depth, for impact, for transformation cycles that reshape both you and your environment. Recognition happened the moment the sky locked into place. Awareness is simply catching up to what was always encoded in that first breath.